Hello vlog. Welcome to Then Turn the Page. My name is Shane, and I'm happy that you're here. So if anyone's a new buddy of mine, feel free to subscribe, join the team, and check out some of the books that I'm going to be talking about in these videos. So the type of book that I like, genre of book that I like is usually business books, usually business related. That's the type of information that I like to consume. I have some fairly popular titles that most people know and are familiar with, stuff that you would normally see in the business section of a bookstore or online. If you're like, say, browsing through an online store, there's some good ones. So I'm going to start with one a lot of people recognize. This is called Game Changers by Dave Asprey. It's a great book. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it. I just picked this up at a thrift store, good price. Yeah, so I'm just gonna start going through these books. Got a lot of opinions there on the back. So Dave Asprey, I believe, was an author. He has many books. I think he's done like some type of vlogging, or not really vlogging, but like a podcast where he would interview people, and he did many hundreds of interviews with professionals in all types of fields. And he basically was trying to get at what is the best way to be successful. So I'm going to touch on books that are about teaching success and advising on healthy ways to live life. So I'm just looking at the contents page and what's on there. Not sure if you can see that well. Looking at the camera, but not sure if you can really see it well. But part 1, it says smarter. Part 2, faster. Part 3, happier. Right, and those are the 3 main things that Dave Asprey talks about in Game Changers. So it says what leaders, innovators, and mavericks do to win at life. So it's an interesting read. I've only read a small amount of it so far. Find it interesting. Right at the bat, on the introduction, off the bat, you see, some really healthy words. I always like seeing these kind of words in this format. I have my own like vision board that I use. Took that from Napoleon Hill's Laws of Success, I think it was. Anyway, one of the books there was talking about healthy words and keeping them in front of you. This one, I like that it starts with that. So you have discipline, you have passion, you have sleep, you have fun, nutrition, curiosity, relationships, self-awareness, exercise, educate, kindness, acts. Okay, these are all important words. So I'm glad to see that the book begins with those words. So I've gotten through, like, maybe I just briefly skimmed it just to see get an idea as to titles and what's going to be discussed. I think I read through like 25 pages so far. So I'm just learning that this author has had like a very successful podcast history where he met a lot of people and taught to them. So he said, he taught to world-class athletes, biochemists, innovative MDs, shamans, Olympic nutritionists, meditation experts. Meditation's a very important thing. I tend to talk about that a lot. Meditation. And anyone who had an unusual ability or knowledge that he could learn from. So that's key. That's key. It's important. So I made some notes. You can see, like, when I go through a book, I don't really make a whole bunch of marks on paper. I just keep the marks like minimal. So you got some lines there, and I use like see lines here. So when I'm going through it, you might see like something like this, square brackets. Not sure how well you can see that, but see if the camera focuses. Yeah, you see these square brackets there. That's how I like to make marks on books. I'm like really minimal in that way. But other people, use highlighters, like tabs, write notes, all types of things. So whatever is your preference is a good way to go. So I'm just going to go through just a few things that I saw in this book that stand out. So Dave Asprey said on this quest, he's had the unique pleasure of interviewing nearly 500 people who have impacted humanity with their discoveries and innovations. So it's interesting. So he has some names here, some names you may have heard of, like Jack Chicken Soup for the Soul Canfield, Tim 4-Hour Ferris. He mentioned like the book title in these. Ariana Huffpo Huffington, and John Menor from Mars Gray. So I know all these books and all these people that are mentioned here. So I find it interesting that he did interview that. So he talks about like ways that our body is like physically wired to produce success, and things that are barriers or could be barriers to an individual's own personal success. So I like that. I won't go too much into detail about those because it's very complex, it seems like. I'm not sure. I don't know much about it. But I do like that. So this guy spent years, I guess he was successful, but he's a little bit overweight. He said he's fighting instincts, trying to make money, seeking power to be safe, looking for intimacy, struggling with weight, and he's angry sometimes and upset. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. So he sought out ways to perform better, to perform at his peak by becoming smarter, faster, and happier. So I think a lot of people can relate to that as well. So smarter, just going through the notes. Faster, happier, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So like I said, I've only just like briefly skimmed just the first part of this book. I'm just going to go through that. I find it interesting. It's well written. It's very simple. Like even here, the introduction to part 1. See, it's a nice clean page. Looks good. Very, very simple, straightforward. So part 1, it starts with focusing on your weaknesses makes you weaker. So that's what it says there. Could be true. And then law 1, you put in square brackets. So this is just how he organized it, right? How his team organized it. So law 1, square brackets, use the power of no, right? Master the art of doing what matters most to you. And so he talks about a professor at University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School of Business, Stuart Friedman. He said he interviewed him. And that professor, I guess, explained that he's investing his time and energy in the wrong places. So that's interesting. So he interviewed successful people who were very high performers. And I guess one key concept that he found was that they were aware and honest about what was most important to them. So that's important. So once you know what's most important to you, like his professor Stuart Friedman said, the second step is to determine who matters most to you. So that's interesting. Next person he interviewed is Tony Stubblebine. So that person was was a CEO and founder of Coach.me, a company based on the idea that positive reinforcement and community support work in tandem to help people achieve their goals. So this person set a budget. I found it interesting. I made some marks there. Another place where I made some marks was this phenomenon. Well, so he's explaining how physically how we operate and how we can become fatigued with our decision making. See what else I have in here. So another thing I like about this book is that they go through the time to write out like a plan that you can easily use. Right? With the topics, with the space to write your answers. You can use this daily, check to review what you've done, your decisions, the decisions that you've made. So then on to law number 2, it says never discover who you are. So actively decide and create who you are, in other words. So you should actively become or try to become the person that you want to become. That's true. Going through it like blindly guessing is probably not a good way to go about it. But if you set in front of you what you want to become, chances are then you'll probably become those things and achieve those things. So, let's see what else. I just got through a little bit. I'm going to go through the whole book. So, action items at the end of the chapters, he puts these helpers. So, find 3 words that describes your highest, best self, and write them down where you'll see them. Not sure what 3 words I really like, but hardworking is one of those. Optimistic is another one. So another thing, when you say you'll try, you're lying. So this is the author's opinion. It may not be the way how everyone thinks about it. Each person thinks about their own thing differently. But so your language sets your limits and to a great extent shapes your destiny. So I totally agree with that. I do think that the words we use in the language and the way we put our sentences together, the words in those sentences, that it will affect the outcome. I do agree with that. So he has these words that he doesn't like. He calls them weasel words. Words that, in other words, words that he does not like. All right, weasel words. So first one in here is can't. Right? Because when you say I can't do that, what you actually mean is 4 things. You could use some help doing it. You don't currently have the tools to do it. You simply don't know how to do it, or you just don't want to do it. So those are all true and valid. So need. So it's another word that can be misunderstood or miscomprehended. Okay. Bad. That's another one. So in reality, very few things are inherently bad. When you label it as bad, you're preparing yourself psychologically and biochemically for the wrong result, which is true. So it creates what he describes as a false binary. So another word, try. He doesn't like the word, not a fan of the word try. He's talking about an example here with someone he was discussing this with. So it gives your brain an out. So I like this example that he gave in here. It says, someone named Jack illustrates the power of try during his powerful keynote presentation when he asks audience members to put something, a note, a book, pen, or whatever else they have handy, on their laps and lift it up. After they do it and put it back down, he says, now this time, just try to pick it up. That confuses everyone and they don't move for a moment. Then a few people start to pick up the item, but suddenly they're struggling with the same item they've lifted effortlessly a moment ago, as if it had gained several pounds. This is because as soon as you hear the word try, so I'm just reading this, as soon as you hear the word try, you assume that whatever you are going to try to do might not be possible. It gives your brain an out. In some events, yeah, I think try can be a tricky word, but sometimes try is an important word as well, because you do have to try. So another word I can replace try with is begin. You do need to begin, right? That's another way to think of it. So I know everyone's brains work differently. You can be stuck on the sound, stuck on the definition, stuck on the shape of the mark, stuck on the way it looks, the way it's perceived. So the way you relate to a word, it could be different for other people. For some people, it's all about the definition. For some people, it's just a sound. So it just depends on how you relate to the word. So now we get into what I like personally is getting into the habit of getting smarter. That's a key concept, I think. You have to get into the habit of building yourself up and improving yourself over time. That's very important. And where I left off, still have some pages to read here, but even your false beliefs are true. So this is law 4 in this book. It says even your false beliefs are true. The beliefs you hold and the stories you tell yourself shape your internal model of reality. When your model is wrong, you build broken habits and make decisions that don't create what you want. You suffer. A flexible mind changes itself and builds a better model as it gathers more data about reality. So build a flexible mind with the built-in habit of questioning and assuming about reality so you can grow. So I do agree with that. I think whether it's true or false, if it's programmed in your mind already and set in your mind, then that's what you're gonna see and believe, even if it's not true or if it's false. So it's very important what you program in your mind. I do agree with that. So that's where I left off. So far it's a good book. Dave Asprey is great writing style. As you can see, I can just read it off the paper, and it makes sense, super easy, right? So I like to read books like this, business books, where I can explain things, concepts that relate to people in business, to people who have to work in the field. So that's what I like to do. And I enjoy these books, of course, so I'm going to continue reading those, find some more that make sense and they're simple. I can just read it off the paper, and it's pretty easy. And then just keep sharing those with you. What I think about it, what I find useful, what I think is not very particularly interesting, and then go from there. But thanks for watching. If you're a new buddy of mine, feel free to subscribe and seek out these videos, and have a good day.